In this episode, I will be talking about 5 projects and one project that I am not going to continue working on anymore, and a few things that I've planned for the future. So let's get started. Good day everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Mariette, also known as die Boervrou, and this is episode 39 of the Crafty Stitches Podcast. Today is the 14th of June 2023 and I'm coming to you from South Africa. So we are in winter now, and I have to say the past few days it's been quite cold. And people who know me knows that if I'm cold, it's really cold. So anyway, I brought myself some coffee. I hope that you have something to drink while we chat a little bit about my knitting projects. I think all of them is knitting again. Yes, all of the projects that I brought today to show you is knitting, and yes, a little bit of drama. Trying not to be dramatic about it or emotional, but I am going to stop working on a project. But anyway, so let's get into this episode and let me share with you all of my thoughts. I do not have any finished projects. Well, technically it's half a finished project, but I'm just going to dive straight into the works in progress this time, and we shall talk about the half-finished object when I get to that. So let's chat about all of these projects. Alright, so the first project that I want to share with you is my Stonecrop Cardi by Andrea Mowry. I am making this project with yarn that I dyed myself. It is a 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon blend. It's got 366 meters on 100 grams, and I, as I said, dyed the main color myself, and the other color that I'm using is just a undyed yarn. This project is a little bit of a mess at the moment. Let me see. Right, so in my previous episode, I was at this point and I added quite a bit of knitting on this one. I actually split for sleeves over the weekend, and I added a little bit of body to it. And I still think that this project is too big for me. So I was fitting this last night, and I was standing in front of the mirror, and I was looking at it and looking at it after I split for the sleeves and added just a little bit of sleeve. But as you will see there, I didn't even do the patterning, I just added a bit of sleeve. I started to do the bobble round and then I just added some sleeve. And I put it on, and I was standing in front of the mirror and I was looking at it and I was looking at it. And I was pulling here and pulling there and thinking, what do I think about it? How do I feel about it? And when I turned around and I looked at my husband's face, I actually just made my decision there and then, because he said to me, if you spend that much time in front of the mirror, something is not right. So I have decided to stop working on this project. I have decided to actually frog this project, and not because it is too big. Well, that is part of the reason, but even if it was not too big, I think I have made this decision maybe 3 weeks ago already, but I just couldn't admit it to myself that this project is not bringing me joy anymore. So I decided to practice what I preach and just stop working on it, because it is killing my knitting joy. Even though I love this project and I would love to have this cardigan in my wardrobe, knitting it is not for me. So I'm admitting it to myself that this project is not bringing me joy anymore, and I'm going to frog it and I'm going to use the yarn for something else that brings me joy. So what I did decide anyway is, because I had all of this drama with the gauge of this project, because I'm not using the recommended yarn and I'm also not using the recommended needle size, I had this problem with my gauge and I didn't really want to talk about it. I spoke to a few people and yeah, everybody says that it doesn't make sense, and I still stand with it that I am sure that my swatch has shrunk, but never mind. So I had the problem with the gauge. I didn't really know what my gauge was. According to the gauge swatch, I got 29 stitches in 10 centimeters, and I have decided before I frog this project, I have enough fabric here to properly measure the gauge on this project. So what I decided to do is to actually wash this, block it, let it dry, measure the gauge before I block it, and then wash and block it and measure the gauges again, and just make note of that in the pattern for if I ever want to do this again, then I know what actually happened. So what I decided to do is I'm going to do all of that, wash and block and whatever, and in my next episode I will talk about it just for a little bit and just tell you what I found, because I don't know, it seems like gauge on this project has completely made a mess of things, and yeah, I didn't know what gauge I'm knitting at, so I just threw caution to the wind and tried to knit the size that was recommended for me on the gauge recommended in the pattern, which I did not achieve. So that should have been the first warning light. But anyway, I'm not mad about it. I have learned a lot from this project. The other thing that I am not too fond of is the bobbles. I will not say that I won't make a project ever again with bobbles, but it's not my favorite thing to do, because it feels to me that I am enlarging the stitch so much that I get a hole. Even though I fixed that with knitting the bobble stitch with the next stitch in the next round, but it's not nice for me to do the bobbles. And the other problem that I had is, because I'm an English style knitter, I am now holding the contrast color in my left hand, continental style, which makes my color work a little bit sloppy. And secondly, when I do that and I knit one stitch in the main color, one stitch in the contrast, one in the main, one in the contrast, my hands start to hurt before I go through one round. So I decided it's hurting my hands, I'm not too sure about the bobbles, let's just stop. So I will report back in the next episode what I found on the gauge. I'll make sure that I have enough coffee before measuring the gauge, and I will again, when it's properly dry, measure the gauges again and compare it to what I got in my swatch. And then yes, I'll come and I'll report back on that in the next episode, because I just came to this decision last night and there is no way that I can wash and block this and get all the information on the podcast before it has to go out. So that will come next week, and I will in the meantime do something else with the yarn. Now I do know if I block this project, the yarn is going to be all wrinkly. I think it's going to be wrinkly anyway, but then I will just make a hank of it again and wash it and make something else. So yes, I was knitting this project as part of Michelle from Happy Ever Yarns Colorwork Make Along, and unfortunately I'm not doing this anymore. It is going to be frogged. And the funny thing about it is that last night, when I finally came to terms with it that this project is not going to get finished, it was like a mountain off my shoulders. I don't know why, but yes, the fact that I started this in March and still haven't finished it should have told me something before. But anyway, couldn't admit it, and now I'm finally ready to let it go. There's nothing wrong with the pattern. I think it's just not for me. I'm not too sure about the all over colorwork knitting. So far it hasn't brought me that much joy. It looks beautiful, but I think it's just not my thing. I don't know what my thing is yet, other than socks. But that is the journey that we go through in the crafting, and sometimes I think the hardest thing is to let go of a dream, because you dreamt about this thing, and when you're in the process you realize that it is just not for you. So if you have anything that's stealing your joy, join me. Let's just frog it together. And be sure to tell me about it in the comments, because we have to share when things don't work out, and just let it go. Alright, so that is my first project that I will talk about next week. And I am frogging it as well. Right, let's make a little bit of space here. Alright, my next project is the socks that I'm knitting for summer sock camp, and these are double knit socks that I'm knitting for my husband for bed socks. So in the previous episode I just started this sock and they are knit toe up, so I was at this point where that beautiful stitch marker is from Annegret from Pincushion Crafts, and I finished the first sock. That is what it looks like. And in the previous episode I mentioned that I want to make the heel in the black, but I decided against it for the following reason. This is the yarn that I'm using for the socks. This one is saying on the ball band that it is a 40% nylon. Where is it now? 40% nylon and 60% wool. I hope that's visible. And then this one is the black, but this one does not state what the content of it is. And I was just looking at it, saying basically almost the same thing except for the double crepe, and I thought maybe it's the same blend. But when I went onto Ravelry to create this project page, I was searching for this yarn and I saw some yarns that looked like this, which is 100% merino, 100% wool. So it's 100% wool, no nylon, just wool. And if I feel these yarns, I would really say that this one is maybe a little bit softer than this. And I decided to do the heel in this color because of the nylon content. Because the bed socks that we usually have gets its holes just underneath the heel turn. And if I'm using this for the heel turn, it's going to defeat the purpose. It'll just get a hole because there's no nylon reinforcement. So I decided to take the wool yarn and do the leg. So the toe and the leg is in the 100% wool yarn, or what I suspect is 100% wool yarn, and the rest is in the nylon blend. I did not actually measure the weight of the sock. I will definitely do that when I'm finished with the pair, and I will share that. So I'm knitting this with my DB toe up socks pattern, just with different stitch counts, but I am using all of the techniques in the sock pattern. And then I'm doing a ribbed leg. I did make him a double knit pair of bed socks in the past with an acrylic nylon blend, and I just measured those ones' legs and just knit this to the same length. I did start the second sock of the pair, and this is how far I am on the second one. So I just went through the heel this morning and I started the leg part. I don't know how long is these legs. Looks like it could be 30 rounds. But that is the socks. Almost finished. Let me add a progress keeper to the leg. Right. Double knit socks. What else can I say about these socks? I'm also knitting this on 3.25 millimeter. What is that? I have no idea which needle is the size. I don't know. Oh, there it is. So it's a 3.25 millimeter US 3 needle. And yeah, that is about it. I mean, these socks are almost finished. And of all of the yarn that I had, I have a lot of this yarn left. I don't know if this was a full ball, maybe a full or an almost full ball. And then I have this full ball left, so I don't know. And then I have this full one left and this little bit. So I think I'm definitely going to break into this one for this one's leg, and then we shall see how much yarn I have left. Maybe if I just have enough of these for feet, that'll be fine, and I can just add something else for a leg, and then maybe I can get another pair out of this. We shall definitely see. One thing that I will definitely change on the next pair is the amount of stitches that I started with. I think this toe is very pointy, and I think I can maybe take off at least 1 centimeter by making the toe a little bit bigger, because the toe just sits there in front of his toes, that little point, and does nothing. I think I just made it too small, and I needed to start at a wider space. So I will maybe do that type of toe for the next one. But anyway, I'm still enjoying this project, and I think before the week is out, this will be finished. And I am really wanting to cast on another pair of socks for me, so I really want to get this finished. Right, that is the socks. Then I started a new project. Well, I started 2 new projects, but started a new project. In the previous episode, I was sharing my ranunculus that I made for the month of May for the make-along that my friend Leonie from Independence Yarn Croft and I were hosting together. And I was saying that the make-along is now finished, and just that weekend the 2 of us couldn't help ourselves, and we started another ranunculus. So she started one and I started one too. So she said she wanted to make another one, and sent me a picture, and I was like, oh no, I'm doing it. I was also thinking this morning that I want another one And I was thinking, how are we gonna wait until the next make along? And then I said, no, I'm on board, let's just do it. So I started another one. Oops. So this Ranunculus is my fourth one. I am again knitting it with 4.5mm needles, and this time I'm using a fingering weight yarn. So it will be the first one I'm making in fingering weight. All of the other ones was in double knit. So this one is, I'm using this Yama yarn for this Ranunculus. What is it called? Yama Fiber Art Craft and Design. And this is merino linen singles. It is 90% merino and 10% linen. It is approximately 360 meters on 100 grams, and the colorway is called Masala. So that is what it looks like in the Yarn Cake Cozy. I think the color is not coming through as it should, as usual. Maybe, I don't know. Let me hold up the project and let's see. So this is what I have so far. I think it is still going a little bit lighter than it should. I will see when I edit the video if this is a more true color and if that is a more true color, and I'll put it up on the screen. But anyway, it's this beautiful goldeny mustard color, and it's got this beautiful black specks on it. Let me just find a little spot that you can see there, hopefully. And I love it. So I am intending this Ranunculus to be a layering piece, whereas the ones that I've knit before was more of the main garment piece that I will be wearing. So I'm not minding the more open gauge of this one, even though I'm still knitting it with 4.5mm needles as the previous two that I made. Let's see. So I did not do a gauge swatch for this one. I decided to knit until I'm finished with the lace on the yoke, and then do a few increases, and then I will wash and block it and see how the yarn behaves, so that I know how much to increase further down and all of those things. So this one is also ready to be washed and blocked. I did 1, 2, 3, 4 raglan increases so far for it, and I'm really loving the way it looks. It feels amazing. I think it's going to be a wonderful layering piece in this cold weather, and I think this one will get finished way quicker than I ever could have done the Stonecrop. So let's just work with things that brings us joy. So for this one, I decided to omit the long tail cast on that I've did for all of the other ones, and I cast on as per the pattern for the, what does she call it, narrow neck, the smaller neckline, the tubular cast on that you do with the waist yarn and the crochet hook. And I did it on the 4.5mm needle, and if you look at it, it looks quite small. When it was on the waist yarn, it was like, it looked like it is only this big. Not lying, it really looks as if it could only go over my hand. But when I took it out, it is really stretchy enough to go over my head. Now, I do not know if I have a small head or a big head, I mean the actual size of it. But this goes over my head. And what I will do is I will actually go and measure my head circumference, and I'll put it on the project page. So I decided, because we had so many questions on the necklines in the Instagram group that we had for the make along, that every time I couldn't say anything because I didn't know, because I didn't do the actual pattern instructions. So this time I did it on the 4.5mm needles, and it still fits over my head. So that is still working. And I think Liani did the same. She also did the smaller neckline on 4.5mm needles, and it also goes over her head. So it just goes over my head. I mean, if I had a very big hairstyle and lots of makeup, it might have been a problem, but I'm not wearing any makeup, so it doesn't bother me at all if the garment like goes through my face. I don't mind. So that is the one thing that I changed on this one. And then, as I did for my previous two, I also omitted the short rows in the front. I just did the short rows at the back. And I'm thinking, when I do this again, because I'm telling you, I will definitely do this again, I might try to manipulate the short rows a little bit so that they come a little bit farther to the front. So instead of just doing the short rows really at the back, just let them come a little bit more to the front to get a little bit more of a, I don't want to say a raglan fit, but like a normal fit, because now you're just bringing it up at the back, but it doesn't really come over to the shoulder. So I want to try that in the future in another one. But for now, for this one, I just did the short rows as per the pattern at the back, and I did make some notes on my Ravelry page, on project page, on what I did to omit the front short rows, because you go from the back into the front and then you do all of the short row stitches, I think, if I remember correctly. And I've written out how I do that if I only do up to this round of the back short rows. I think that is everything that I should have said for this project. I did want to show you these cute little stoppers that I got, that I'm using on this project. They were calling to me. So I went and I visited Lauren at Little Yarn Croft. I got a 9-inch circular needle for the Stonecrop Cardi's sleeves that I saw last night will not be working for the sleeves, because maybe I have too many stitches for the sleeves, because they are so cramped on there that I cannot almost knit with it. For the sleeves, I think I just have too many. But anyway, so I bought a shorter cable and shorty tips for the Ranunculus sleeves, and then I got these little stitch stoppers from her because they just called to me, and I think they are so pretty. She's got so many different ones, so you can just go onto her website. I will link it down below and have a look. They're really cute, and these are working very nicely on this project. Previously I actually had them on the socks, because with the gusset stitches on my needles there were quite a lot of stitches and they just wanted to fall off. So I don't know, I like these. They'll fit nice and snug on my 4.5mm needles and on the 3.25s, so definitely recommend them. Very nice. I think that is everything for my Ranunculus. I actually have to what is it called, alternate yarns, but I thought I'm just gonna knit with a 1 strand until I block it, and then I will start alternating with another color. Otherwise I have 2 balls on this project while I'm trying to block it. So that is the next step for this one, is to see how much it grows so that I can see how much I need to increase and all of those things. So I'll keep you posted on that in the next episode when that gets a little bit more love. I'm also thinking of maybe not decreasing the sleeves on this one too much, maybe just a little bit, because the pattern doesn't call for sleeve decreases as I did in my previous one. It just calls for straight knitting and then having an I-cord. And I also want to try the I-cord at the sleeves. I mean, if I don't like it, I can just rip it out and do ribbing. So I will see how that comes out. I'm very excited about it, and I'm really enjoying the yarn. The yarn was a gift from a viewer of the podcast, so I'm very grateful for that, and I'm so happy to use it, and I'm actually surprised at how much I love it. Alright, so that is the Ranunculus. Then I have another new project that is actually an old project. If you have been following the podcast for a while, you would know that last winter I tried to knit my husband a hat. So he asked me for this hat and he wanted something specific, and I got lots of suggestions from viewers of the podcast on patterns that really looks like it could be, but every time I show him something, it's like, no, doesn't like that, it needs to be this and that and all the specifications. So last year I did knit him a hat that he liked. The only problem was that I knitted in double knit yarn and it was still too cold for him. He still wears the hat, but he said that he would like a thicker, warmer one. So now I have been, last winter I actually started to work on the hat, and then I don't know what happened. We reached spring and I didn't get it done in time. So I just left it all the while lying in a project bag, and I started working on it again. So what I had in my project bag was this circle that I started at the top, and this was actually started with some pure gold chunky yarn. I do not know what this color is. I suspect it's something like pepper that you would not suspect a grey to be, but I cannot exactly remember, and I don't know where the ball band is because this is a ball band for a purple yarn. But anyway, so I started this one, and you can see there that it looks like it, I don't know what it's called, it's leaning to one side because I'm doing increases. I think one increase in 8 sections, 2, 4, 6, 8 sections. So this is also before I learned how to do the pinhole cast on. So now I know that. But that was what was in my bag, and I was suspecting that it is a little bit too little yarn, but I added some other yarns to the project bag, like this yarn, and when I was cleaning out my acrylic yarn stash, I actually got a whole hat that I crocheted up as a sample in this specific yarn. So I frocked the thing and I added the yarn to the project bag, and I started a new hat. But I then decided to try and make it look a little bit more like the double knit one that I made, and that had 6 sections at the top, but it had this distinct one stitch as a middle stitch. So you would increase on this side of the middle stitch and then on the other side, almost like you would do a raglan but it had one plain knitted stitch in the middle. And I knit this one on the 4.5mm shorties with a short cable with a pinhole cast on, but I can see that this hat has too many increases. So my increase rate is too much on this one. So I'm going to rip this out and I'm going to do a pinhole cast on and redo this 8 sections hat in this yarn. So I have learned that increasing 12 stitches every second row in chunky yarn is definitely too much. I did put it on a barber cord and it definitely keeps wobbling. And then when I looked at the double knit hat that I made previously, I could see that it also had a little bit of a wobble in it for too many stitches. But I think because it was a double knit fabric, it was a little bit softer and it's not that obvious. But anyway, I went down a needle size. For this one I used a 5mm needle, and for this one I now used a 4.5 because I thought that maybe having a little bit of a denser fabric will also be a little bit warmer, like you knit dense fabric for your socks. And the yarn does state on the label that it could be used, that you can use a 4.5 to a 5.5mm needle. So I think I'm going to stick with a 4.5mm because the fabric is nice and dense, but I'm going to change the increase rate. So this dark gray yarn is just L Family Knit Chunky, and it is in the colorway Ash, and it has 80 meters on 50 grams. So I'm writing this up as I go because I do know that I'm going to make more of these hats. If I can just get the correct thickness, then it'll be fine. So if you haven't been with a podcast for a while and you have no idea what I'm talking about, I knit him this hat that almost looks like a helmet because it comes down to his eyebrows and it goes completely down here and all the way around. So it is covering the ears and it has like ribbing behind the neck, so it's on the neck, over the ears. It really looks like a helmet. And he really likes that. It was per his specifications that it must cover the neck and the ears, and yeah. Anyway, so I'm working on the hat again, and I think this time we will get it finished and get a chunky hat, because the plan is to get the pattern correct so that I have the right amount of stitches and everything in then the chunky weight yarn, and then I will know how many meters I need, more or less, and then I will start looking for maybe 100% merino yarn or something to knit him a proper natural yarn hat in. That'll hopefully be even more warm than this acrylic one is going to be, because he really needs a hat. Alright, so that is my whole thing for the hat, and then I started another new project. I went a little bit crazy. So when I bought the yarn for my Ranunculus, the L Merino yarn, that is a new yarn from L that they brought out this winter, I also bought some of their new 50-50 double knit yarn. It is 50% superwash wool, 50% acrylic, and it has 150 meters on 50 grams, and I bought the color Dark Jeans 050. and I started a new project with it, which is, oh, this is what it looks like. I don't know if this gives the correct colors. I really don't think so, but anyway. So it's a beautiful color. I really like the feel of it. It's super soft. And I started a shaped cowl, but my double knit version. Now the pattern for the double knit version is not out yet. I've only have the simple shaped cowl light pattern out yet, which is made with a fingering weight yarn. But I actually started with double knit cowls. I cannot remember when. It's been a few years. It can be 3 or 4 years ago. But this is the double knit version because it is getting colder and I need another shaped cowl. So I started this one. I actually started it twice because again I didn't do a gauge swatch. So I knitted it a little bit and wash and blocked it and saw that it grew, and I then frocked back and I started again with the right amount of stitches now, and then we will be washing and blocking this again to make sure that it does grow again. I think it grew with 1 stitch maybe, but I will definitely check on that when I wash and block it again. So that is my cowl, just a little bit done on this one. Very excited about this because I don't think I have any of them in blue. My first one that I did that is shaped is like a pink and gray. Oh, here it is. Is this one. Oh, underneath. So it's this pink and gray one. That's made from Owl Pure Gold. And then I also last year re-knit a cowl that I made before I started to shape them, and that is in a brown. And then my simple shaped light cowl is in a red. So now I will have a blue one that I'm very excited about. And I cannot wait to see how this yarn wears over time and how I like it. I love the feel of it so far. It's very soft. I really like the fact that it looks a little bit, it's almost like it's a little bit grayish as well, but I really love it. I think it's beautiful. And the yarn is very plump, I would say. So it makes wider stitches, I would say, than the Owl Pure Gold. So I have less stitches in 10 centimeters than I have for the Owl Pure Gold cowl. But anyway, so that is the other project that I started. And I'm also, as you would have seen, keeping this yarn in my Yarn Cake Cozy. This is a 50 gram one, and these are the 100 gram ones, and I really love these cozies a lot. So right, what else did I want to say? I think that is everything that I wanted to say about the projects that I'm currently working on. Let me just put it down because it seems like I'm flying with it all over the place. I do have some future plans, and that is what this yarn is caked up for. I am going to make a pair of socks for myself with this yarn, and I've already caked it up. It's already been caked for more than a week on my table, but I decided to try and finish something first before I started. And as I have scratched the Stonecrop Cardi off my to-do list, and I'm almost finished with my husband's double knit socks, I think I might start the socks at the latest this weekend, because it's going to bring me joy and I want to do it. And that is reason enough. All right. Then the other thing that I wanted to mention for my future projects or future plans, basically, not future projects, is that the ranunculus that I knit in the make-along and that I showed in last week's episode that I made with the Al Merino DK yarn, I made my sleeves a little bit too short. I don't know why I didn't think of measuring sleeves from other garments in my wardrobe that actually fits nicely, but I did it this morning and I need about 4 centimeters of length on my sleeves. So I'm just going to rip out the cuff and I'm just going to knit that 4 centimeters extra length and then redo the cuff. So I will be doing that and I will share with you in next week's episode, in the next episode in 2 weeks, how much more yarn I actually needed to add to the ranunculus, and I will add it to the project page as well. But since I started wearing it, I was seeing that I am pulling on my, all right, technical difficulties. I kept seeing that I keep pulling on my sleeves while I worked around the house. If I just sit at the computer, it's not a problem, but if I start making the bed or doing things, moving my arms, I kept pulling on my sleeves and I realized that they are just too short and I'm just going to add that length to them. So that is what I'm going to do. I think that is everything that I have today for projects. So let's move over to find out what's been happening. Right, so I have been on a mission the past month, working on all of my patterns that I've already released. So I am updating all of the patterns that I do have out there for sale. I am updating all of them onto my new pattern format. I did see a few grammar mistakes on the patterns because English is not my first language and I really try my best, but I did see a few mistakes, and then I am also adding more information to some of the patterns. I already updated the Yarn Cake Cozy patterns, the 50 gram as well as the 100 gram and the bundle. And I also updated the DB toe-up socks, my vanilla sock pattern, and I added information onto that pattern on how to do the sock in one color for the heel, because the original pattern has a contrast toe and a contrast heel, and the contrast toe is not so much a problem, but the heel, if you do it in the same color yarn, your yarn is going to be on a different spot in the sock when you start the heel, and that is a little bit different. So I updated those information into the pattern, and all of the patterns that only has one sock, one heel instruction in it will also be updated to a main color heel as well as a contrast color heel, and there is also video tutorials included in that. So if you bought any of my patterns, you might already have received a update if it is a Yarn Cake Cozy pattern or the DB toe-up socks. If not, keep your eyes peeled because the updates are coming very soon. I'm hard at work on all of those things to get them updated and get them out. If you bought any of my patterns and you see on Instagram that it has been updated and you did not receive an update, please contact me, send me an email so that we can see how I can get the pattern out to you. Doesn't matter if you bought it on Ravelry or on my website or in my Etsy shop. Ravelry has the feature to send you the update automatically when I update the pattern in the store. But for my website and for Etsy, I will definitely send you the pattern via email. So check your inbox, check your junk mail. If you haven't received it, send me an email and we will get that sorted for you. Right, then what else? I'm also adding the patterns to my Etsy shop at this moment. So as I finish them and get things done, I add them. I will be adding all of them to the Etsy shop. So if you are interested in buying it from the Etsy shop, that is also an option. And all of the shops is linked down below this video in the show notes. So you can just click on the more and you will get all of those links down there for you. Right, I think that is more or less everything that I wanted to share today. I will also be putting my podcast recommendations on the screen for you next, and then you can have a little look at those. I will also link them for you down below. That is everything that I have for this episode. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. If you are new, I hope that you enjoyed this episode and that you will consider sticking around. Please share with me in the comments what you are working on currently. I would love to know and to chat with you about that. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you would like to see any more of my content. And I will see you in the next one. Until next time, happy crafting. Bye!